What was something you saw you were definitely not supposed to see? So, I'm fresh out of school and taking a gap year before starting university. I'd managed to get a job working for the USAF at an air base in the UK. Details of the job aren't important. So, about 2 a.m. on this particular night in early 1988, the runway lights that are normally off come on briefly, for perhaps 30 seconds, then go off. That's when I hear something clearly landing on the runway, and off to the right of the runway one of the larger hangars opens its doors. In the pitch black, the light from that hangar is quite spectacular. That's when I see it. A small black triangular aircraft rolls straight into that hangar, and within seconds the doors close behind it. This was my honest thought when I saw that. I was definitely not supposed to have seen that. I put my cigarette, hey, I was young and dumb, out and walked back into my building. A few weeks later we got our first pictures of the F-117 Nighthawk, followed by a confirmation it existed. I smiled a little and thought to myself, already knew about that. As a middle schooler, I picked up a book at the library, flipped through the pages and found an application for a replacement birth certificate for some old man. It had every detail about his personal identification on it, so naturally I took it home thinking, I'll just hold onto this in case I ever need to assume a fake identity by pretending to be an 80-year-old man and flee the country. My mom found it and had to explain to me that no, we don't steal people's identities. I was working part-time at a library for a school subject. One day, they made me enter the data for new books into the library's computer system. As I worked, I did something, don't know what, that made Windows Outlook display onto the PC screen, along with some emails by the librarian's director to my teacher and to the other librarians. The emails basically said that I was really good at my job and very hardworking, and that the collaboration would be very beneficial both for me and them. I wasn't supposed to read those messages, but they made me feel really happy. When I started a new job, someone had left a bunch of HR files on the computer I was given. I opened one up, not sure what it was, and I got to see every employee's salary in the company, even the CEO. The next day, it was gone. My boss realized his mistake and logged into my system and deleted the files. It was a memorable experience. Went to visit Grandma and Grandpa. The front door was locked, so I went around through the back and found them gardening totally naked. Freshman year of college, walk into the kitchen area late at night and there's my girlfriend sitting on the counter making out with one of my good friends. I just left quietly without them noticing and cut off all contact with both of them, so pretty sure I wasn't supposed to see that. When I was 14, a friend hosted a birthday party at his house with all the parents invited. Needed to use the restroom, but the main one was occupied, so my friend told me I can use the one in his mom's bedroom. As I walked up to the door I could hear somebody in there, so I decided to wait until whoever was in there was finished. A good 10 minutes later, my friend's mom, who was hosting the party, and another good friend's stepfather walk out and see me standing there all confused. They asked what I was doing there and I just said I was waiting to use the bathroom. Surprisingly, they played it cool and just said I can use it now and walked off. I used to work nights at a manufacturing plant. I went to the bathroom one night, picked out my favorite stall and sat on the toilet to spend the next 10 minutes contemplating life. After a few minutes, a male janitor walked in and started cleaning the bathroom. Another minute later, another male janitor came in to help. They were talking to each other in Spanish and then started kissing near the sinks, not realizing anyone was in the bathroom. I just sat there silently for a while, not knowing what to do. After another minute or two of heavy kissing between the two, I decided to make a few noises so that they knew they weren't alone. My toilet seat creaked when I moved. They both stopped their romance session, looked at my stall, giggled, and ran out of the bathroom, leaving all of their cleaning stuff behind. I quickly cleaned up, flushed and ran out. I actually never saw those same janitors again. I was about 8 or 9 and my parents were going to be out of town, so they had me and siblings stay with a family from our church. Once we got to the house, which was really nice BTW, they had one rule: you can play wherever you want, but the basement is off limits. Me being the little bastard that I was, snuck down there first chance I got and was supremely disappointed to only find rows and rows of plants growing under lights. A longtime friend of mine's dad was showing me pics of a car he was restoring. He accidentally pulled up nude pics of my friend's mom instead. He looked awkward for a minute. He never said anything and then just started looking at car pics like it never happened. I'm sure everyone can add the nudity of a friend to the list, so I'll skip that. Spoiler alert, I learned at 6 that Santa was not really bringing me presents when I had my door cracked open on Christmas Eve and saw my dad and my cat wrestling with a present that my dad was trying in vain to get out of my cat's clutches. The scratches down his arm the next morning confirmed that it wasn't a dream. Sassy never took shit from anyone, though. My 6-year-old cousin asked me if I wanted some chewing gum. I said sure, if she has some. She then goes to her mother's purse and takes out 2 packages of condoms and asks me, "What do you want, strawberries or banana?" Next thing I know, I'm shoving Durex packages in her mother's purse, saying we should firstly ask your mom before going through her things. So the kid doesn't stop here. She takes the purse, goes in the kitchen where all the family was reunited, and asked her mother, "Mom, can I have some gum?" Her mom says she doesn't have any. The freaking girl takes the condoms out of the purse and says, "Sure you do, I want the strawberries ones please." Imagine her mother's embarrassment. When I was about 4 to 5 years old, I watched Eddie Murphy, Raw in its entirety, around the corner from the living room while my parents were watching it. I was super quiet and they were laughing their ass off, so they didn't notice. I learned all sorts of cool new words. I saw an employee's check stub that he dropped. He had been there for a month and was making what I made after my first year and was not a very good worker. I got a raise. About 9 years ago, there were a couple of notes scattered across the computer desk in my parents' study. I happened to read them because words are in front of my face. What am I gonna do? They were notes my parents had written each other instead of just talking to each other, because my dad had slept with 14 hookers. Around 2000, I was working for a large business that makes telecom networking equipment, managing an internal project. Holiday comes around, most everyone is off doing their thing. I am in the office being busy beaver exempt employee. I encounter a problem pushing a very large binary blob to another site, and while troubleshooting, notice that there's some seriously high network usage happening across the switch from one particular machine. Now, I have a local administrator on all the machines in my department, so I log on to this machine to find out why someone has set up an against policy VPN tunnel. We're all IT programmer types, but we have proprietary IP sitting on machines. We're under NetSec, and can't have people remoting into these machines or whatnot. Oh, hey, this guy is running LimeWire off his freaking user-level account. That's not good. What is this guy thinking? Why can't he be a professional? So, we're going to have to write this guy up. Let me just have a look at what pirated music and movies this. Oh Jesus Christ. One of the functions of my job was to carry the bat phone, which had a direct line to an FBI office, because our corporate was pretty big on turning network intrusions into federal cases wherever possible. And if the FBI wanted something, the FBI got it. Warrant not required. The guy had brought in a case of burned CDs full of kiddie porn, and was distributing it off our network, via LimeWire. I missed dinner that night, and had to keep what was happening from my wife for about a week before they finally arrested him, which put a strain on our relationship. But that guy got sent off for a long time. One Christmas Eve I couldn't sleep at all, so I went to the kitchen to get some water or something, and out in the living room were my parents setting out presents and eating the cookies I had left out. They said the Santa was running late and was in such a big hurry that he just dropped off the presents and asked them to put them out for him. When I was little, my father set a password on a computer I was using for playing games. I wanted him to type the password while I was away, but set a camera to record it. Hid it behind a pile of books. The trick was, the camera back in the days was only able to record for 30 seconds, so I had to call my father and run out of the room, so he could type it as quickly as possible. It stopped filming just as he hit enter. An obese, greasy feller, sitting fully naked on a toilet, a mix of pain and confusion and surprise on his face as I walked into his stall at a Sizzler's restaurant. Stayed with me for a while, not gonna lie. Saw a Homer Simpson keychain in my mom's desk drawer. Didn't say anything. 2 weeks later it's in my Christmas stocking and she goes, "Wow, how did Santa know how much you like The Simpsons?" That's how I figured out Santa must have been sleeping with my mom. When I was about 5, my mom took me to the bank because she needed something out of the safety deposit box. It was right when they were opening up. They asked us to turn around while they unlocked the vault, but I peeked. According to family lore, I went around the rest of the day chanting the numbers of the combination. Our cat was a little late coming home one evening, unusual for him. I went looking for him, calling his name, not massively loudly as it was late at night in a built-up area. As I walked around a corner to a car park, there he was. He looked like he was just having a bit of a chat with a fox. They looked relaxed, facing each other, sitting and chilling out. I called his name and he looked at me, seemed flustered, looked back at the fox then me almost as if he was saying he's not with me, I don't know him. I called him again and he chased the fox into the bushes before trotting over to me. I'm sure I crossed an animal line. When I was 8 or so, my old nanny babysitter, choose which you prefer, was showing me a video of her time with her boyfriend in Paris. After it blacks out for a few seconds, it then suddenly cuts to her lying on her hotel bed completely naked, legs spread, telling her boyfriend to come get it. She jumped out of her seat, tried to cover my eyes and told me to never tell anyone. I have now told potentially thousands of random strangers. Similar story to the F-117 at the top. I was a contractor in Afghanistan working at Jalalabad Airfield, FOB Fenty. I woke up to take a piss and gave a cigarette. On the other side of the runway I saw a few helicopters take off but didn't hear anything. I thought it was strange as the base was dead silent but didn't think too much about it. It was only later when I read the news that it was the SEAL team raid to kill bin Laden. Because of my pea-sized bladder, I was probably the first non-military or government person to see those stealth helicopters. My mom's attempted suicide. I was about 4 to 5 when she tried to hang herself from some exposed pipes we had in the bathroom. My mom and dad were drunk arguing all night when she went into the bathroom and things got quiet. My dad rushed in to get her down, and when he opened the door, that's the moment I decided to walk out of the bedroom to see what all the noise was all about. Because they were different screams that weren't normal arguing sounds. That image stuck around for a while. More heard than seen, but I was golfing with my mother's fiancé when he got a phone call. He had his cell volume turned up really high, and I overheard a woman who wasn't my mother say some things, including the phrase "fuck and suck," in a seductive manner. I convinced myself that it wasn't my business, or that I'd misunderstood, and dropped it. A few years later, her now husband was revealed to be a serial cheater, with active partners numbering in the dozens. Yes, I still feel like shit. Yes, they're divorced.